200 amps electrical service installation with 2 service disconnects. This 200 amps electrical service is installed using a dual meter pan. A riser with PVC conduit containing SEU cable. And 2 100 amps service disconnects serving 2 subpanels. The entire installation must comply with the NEC, National Electrical Code, the NEC version applicable in a given area. Milbank U1282XL double meter pan, socket, for overhead or underground cable installation. 2 sockets for 2 electrical meters using the same service. The closure pads that need to be reinstalled once the installation is complete but the service is not energized. Open the latches securing the front panels of the meter pan. And remove all 3 front panels. And the closure pads. Meter pan after removing the front panels. Meter pan hub mounting opening protected by a weathertight cover. Holes for installation screws. Selected side knockouts for this installation which need to be opened to allow for the installation of the 1.5-inch nipple for the installation of a service disconnect. Meter pan hub. With installation screws. The meter hub side for mounting on a meter pan, allowing the service riser to be mounted further away from the wall, if this better suits the installation. The meter hub side for mounting on a meter pan, allowing the service riser to be mounted closer to the wall, if this better suits the installation. Unscrew the meter pan hub hole cover nut. And remove the hub cover. Install the meter hub to the meter pan using the screws provided. The hub is mounted in a way that allows the riser to be mounted closer to the wall. Bottom view of the installed meter pan hub. Open the 2 knockouts in the meter pan selected for mounting the service disconnects. Knockout opened. Mount the meter pan to the building structure using appropriate exterior screws and follow NEC installation requirements. Open knockouts in the meter pan to enable installation of service disconnects using a 1.5-inch PVC nipple. Meter pan hub ready for riser cable installation. Square D circuit breaker enclosures, listed for use as a service equipment, with a 100 amps circuit breaker will be used as a service disconnects. Open the front cover. Unscrew the screw. And remove the enclosure faceplate. Hardware bag containing a bonding screw and remaining securing screws for the enclosure faceplate. Label for circuit breaker description. Instruction. Remove the pre-installed circuit breaker. Disconnect connection terminals. Hole for bonding screw. Hole for mounting an additional lug or grounding strip. Holes for mounting the disconnect to the structure. Knockouts from which you must select and open one to mount the disconnect on the right or left side of the meter pan. Open selected knockout to fit 1.5-inch nipple. Open knockout. To make a 1.5-inch PVC nipple you will need 1.5-inch PVC conduit, 2 1.5-inch PVC conduit connectors, connector lock nuts, PVC glue. Insert the made nipple into the open knockout in the meter pan and the open knockout in the disconnect. And then mount the disconnect to the building structure. Lock the nipple with the lock nuts. Nipple locked on both sides. Install the second service disconnect in a similar way. Both disconnects installed. Install cable securing bushing on all connector threads. 1.5-inch PVC LB body, cover plate, foam gasket, cover plate installation screws. Using a piece of PVC conduit, a connector, and a LB. Make a protective, open-ended cover for the SER 100 amps cable. Open the knockout on the bottom of the disconnect where the LB assembly will be installed. Mark the hole on the wall where the LB end will be inserted and drill the hole. Insert the LB into the disconnect open knockout and into the drilled hole in the wall. Then secure the made open raceway to the disconnect using lock nut. Piece of PVC conduit will need to be added to extend the LB into the wall. Lock nut securing LB to the disconnect. Install the protective bushing. LB assembly installed for both disconnects. 4-wire service entrance cable, SER 100 amps. Insert the cable from the subpanel into the LB and route it to the disconnect. Make sure the cable is long enough to be properly connected. LB cover plate with gasket and screws. Close LB. In a similar way, insert the SER cable from the another subpanel into the second LB and close the LB. 200 amps service entrance cable, SEU. 2 inches PVC conduit. 2 inches PVC conduit connector. 2 inches PVC conduit service entrance cap. Service entrance cap base, with slots to separate and support SEU cable wires. Service entrance base cap cover, with snap-in, quick locking locks. 2 holes conduit strap for 2 inches PVC conduit. Screws of appropriate size, suitable for outdoor use. Screw the PVC conduit connector into the meter pan hub. Glue the conduit into the connector to create a vertical channel for the SEU cable. Using a conduit strap, support the pipe no more than 3 feet from the meter pan. 2 inches PVC conduit must be supported every 5 feet. Glue the base of the PVC service entrance cap to the conduit, and use a pipe strap to secure the pipe to the building close to the cap to ensure the conduit is stable when the cable is inserted. Insert the SEU cable into the conduit, leaving at least 3 feet of cable outside the conduit for connection to the service drop wires. Make sure there is at least 18 inches of cable beyond the entry point into the meter pan. Remove the cable sheath and the reinforcement tape. Twist the individual braid wires of the neutral, grounded conductor wire to create one single braided wire. Insert the neutral wire into the center slot of the service entrance cap base. Insert the SEU cable hot phase wires into the side slots of the service entrance cap base. Install the cap onto the base of the service entrance cap. Make sure the snap-in, quick locking locks engages. At the meter pan, remove the cable sheath and reinforcement tape from SEU cable. Twist the individual braid wires of the neutral, grounded conductor wire to create one single braided wire. Neutral, grounded conductor, wire connection terminal for service entrance wire. Hot, phase wire connection terminals for service entrance wires. Unscrew the terminal screws to connect the service entrance wires. Wire terminals free from terminal screws. Bend the hot wires. Cut one of the hot phase wires to a length that will fit the connection terminal, no shorter than 6 inches. Strip the end of the wire about 1 inch. Antioxidant joint compound. Apply a small amount of antioxidant joint compound to the end of the wire and place the wire in the open terminal. Tighten the connection terminal screw. Repeat the same steps to connect the other service entrance hot phase wire to the second connection terminal. Cut the service entrance neutral wire. Apply a little antioxidant joint compound to the end of the wire, insert it into the service neutral wire connection terminal, and tighten the terminal screw. Tighten the connection terminal screw to the appropriate torque according to the information on the meter pan label. Hot phase wires from the service entrance cable connected to the hot line, service entrance wire, connection terminals in the meter pan. Neutral, grounded conductor, wire from the entrance service cable connected to the common neutral terminal strip which is bonded to the meter pan enclosure in the meter pan. Fifth meter pan socket jaw, neutral jaw, bonded to the neutral terminal strip. Neutral wire terminals for connecting the neutral wire to the service disconnects. Hot wire terminals for connecting the hot wires to the service disconnects. Service disconnect bonding screw. Feed an appropriately sized set of wires through the nipple to connect the service disconnect to the meter pan. Service disconnect connection terminals. Bond the neutral terminal strip to the disconnect enclosure using the bonded screw supplied with the disconnect. Bonded neutral strip connection terminals for neutral and ground wires. Connection terminals for hot line wires from the meter pan. Meter pan neutral wire terminal for connecting the neutral wire to the disconnect from the first, right, meter socket. Hot wires connection terminals of the first, right, meter socket for connecting hot wires to the disconnect. Open the connection terminals of the first, right, meter pan socket to connect the wires to the disconnect. Terminals open and ready to connect wires. Strip about 1 inch of insulation from the end of one of the hot wires to the service disconnect and apply a small amount of antioxidant joint compound to the exposed end of the wire. Insert this wire into one of the open connection terminals of the first, right, meter socket and tighten it using the previously removed terminal screw. Repeat the same steps to connect the second hot wire to the service disconnect from this meter socket. Connect the neutral wire, in this example the wire with white stripes, from the disconnect to the neutral terminal of the meter pan, adding a little antioxidant joint compound. Connect the same neutral wire in the service disconnect to the neutral bar terminal by stripping approximately 3/4 inch of insulation from the end of the wire, adding a little antioxidant compound, and tightening the terminal screw to the proper torque specified on the disconnect label. Strip the insulation from the end of one of the hot wires coming from the meter pan. Add a little antioxidant joint compound, and connect it to one of the hot wire terminals of the service disconnect. In a similar way, connect the other hot wire from the meter pan to the other hot wire terminal of the service disconnect. Both hot wires connected to the line terminals of the service disconnect. Remove the cable sheath and reinforcement tape from the cable running to one of the subpanels. SCR cable wires free from cable sheath. If the service disconnect does not have a sufficient number of terminals for connecting the grounding and bonding wires, an additional grounding strip or terminals must be added. To ensure a good and effective connection to the existing neutral, grounding terminals, a NEC-compliant bonding jumper can be installed between the neutral terminals and the additional grounding bar. Connect the ground wire, bare, from SER cable to the neutral, ground terminal of the disconnect. Connect the neutral wire, black with white stripes, from SER cable to the neutral, ground terminal of the disconnect. The grounding electrode conductors will be connected to this ground neutral terminal. Install a circuit breaker. Load terminals of the circuit breaker. Make a loop in the hot wire of the SER cable to maintain the wire length required by the NEC. Strip about 1/2 inch of insulation from the end of one of the hot wires and apply a small amount of antioxidant joint compound to the exposed end of the wire. Connect this wire to one of the load terminals of the circuit breaker. Make a loop in the other hot wire of the SER cable. Strip about 1/2 inch of insulation from the end of the wire. Apply a small amount of antioxidant joint compound to the stripped end of the wire. And connect this wire to the other load terminal of the circuit breaker. The first service disconnect is connected to the line and load wires. Mark the bonding bridge in green as required. Push-in button type cable connector. Open one of the bottom service disconnect knockout for the push-in connector. Insert the cable connector into the open knockout. Mark the ground wire from the ground rods green, if it is not green or bare, and insert it into the cable connector. Small cable strap with one hole and screw suitable for outdoor use. Secure the grounding electrode conductor to the structure within 12 inches from the wire entry into the service disconnect. Connect the grounding electrode conductor to the neutral, ground terminal of the service disconnect. Inter-system bonding bridge. Bonding bridge strip connection terminals. Terminal for connecting the grounding conductor from the service equipment. Terminals for connecting the ground wire of other equipment, if needed. Holes for screws securing the bonding bridge to the building structure. Bonding bridge terminal strip cover. Press the tabs to insert or remove the cover. From the bonding bridge terminal strip. To install an inter-system bonding bridge, remove about 3/4 inch of insulation from the grounding electrode conductor, if the conductor is insulated. Insert the grounding electrode conductor into the open terminal of the bonding bridge and tighten the screw. Secure the bonding bridge to the building structure using outdoor screws. Snap the cover onto the bonding bridge terminal strip. Duct seal. Seal the opening around the LB entrance to the building. Open the second bottom knockout and insert cable connector. Route 4 gauge grounding electrode conductor from the water meter and connect it to the service disconnect. If a non-conductive water pipe enters the building, there is no need to install a grounding electrode conductor. Secure the grounding electrode conductor to the structure within 12 inches from the wire entry into the service disconnect. Connect the grounding electrode conductor from the water meter, where the water pipe enters the building, to the neutral, ground terminal of the service disconnect. Holes for installation: the faceplate of the service disconnect. Connect the second service disconnect in a similar way to the first, but connect the ground wires to the grounding electrode conductors of the first service disconnect. Connect the wires from the second service disconnect to the second meter socket in the meter pan in the same way. as the wires from the first service disconnect to the first meter socket in the meter pan. Grounding electrode conductor that will be connected to the grounding electrode conductor from the first disconnect to the water supply pipe and the water meter. Grounding electrode conductor that will be connected to the grounding electrode conductor from the first disconnect to the ground rods. Split bolt connector. Remove about 1 inch of insulation from the grounding electrode conductor from the first service disconnect to the water supply pipe and the water meter, and then strip about 1 inch the end of grounding electrode conductor from the second disconnect to the water supply pipe and the water meter. Connect the two grounding electrode conductors together using a split bolt or other suitable means. Remove about 1 inch of insulation from the grounding electrode conductor from the first service disconnect to the ground rods, and then strip about 1 inch the end of grounding electrode conductor from the second disconnect to the ground rods. Connect the two grounding electrode conductors together using a split bolt or other suitable means. Grounding electrode conductors connected from both service disconnects to the same electrode system. Grounding electrode conductors supported as required. Slots for the supporting bars of the front panels of the meter pan. Reinstall the support bars for the meter pan front panels. Install the center front panel of the meter pan. If electric meters are not to be installed, the closure pads must be reinstalled. Install the meter socket front panels. Describe the meters. Meter pan panels installed. Install the faceplates of the service disconnects. Label disconnects as a service disconnects. Describe the service disconnects on faceplates and front covers. 5/8 inch 8 feet long ground rods. Ground rods clamps. Install two ground rods near the service equipment 6 feet apart so that the tops of the rods are at or below ground level. Connect the ground rods using 6-gauge copper wire and connect it to the service disconnect. First ground rod continuously connected to a second ground rod. Water pipe grounding clamp. Connect service equipment to a conductive water pipe. If a non-conductive water pipe supplies the building, bonding is not required. Install water pipe grounding clamps and connect the grounding electrode conductor from the disconnect as close as possible to where the pipe enters the building, before the valve. And run to the other side of the water meter and connect after the water valve, if the valve is located close to the water meter. At the water heater, install grounding clamps on both the cold and hot water pipes. And connect the two pipes together using a grounding wire of the same size as the grounding electrode conductor used for the building's water supply pipe bonding. Install the sub-panels. Ground terminals. Neutral terminals. Hot terminals. Bonding screw for neutral bar. Insert the cable from the one of the service disconnects into the panel. The SER cable from the service disconnect must be inserted into a properly sized and listed cable connector and secured within 12 inches of the cable entry point into the panel. Remove the cable sheath and reinforcement tape. Strip ends of the wires about 1/2 inch. Apply a small amount of antioxidant joint compound to the stripped wire ends, and connect as follows. Ground, bare, wire to the ground terminal of the panel. Neutral, black with white stripes, wire to the neutral terminal of the panel. Remaining 2 hot wires to the hot terminals of the panel in any order. Unscrew the bonding screw so that no one can tighten it. Because the neutral and ground wires must be separated in all subpanels, the neutral and ground wires must be connected only in the first service disconnect or panel with the service disconnect. Install the subpanel cover. The service is ready to be connected to the power line. Service riser with the cable connected to the power line. Weatherhead must be above the service hook. Using the antioxidant joint compound on the end of the wire, connect the neutral wire from the service to the neutral wire of the power line. Connect hot wires from the service to the power line, adding a small amount of antioxidant joint compound to the ends of the stripped wire ends. Insert the electric meters into the meter pan. Turn on the service disconnects, circuit breakers, to power the electrical panels. Installation complete. If this video is helpful, please subscribe. Comments are welcome.